Today, I'm gonna teach you how to do a job interview. I'm actually gonna film myself doing a job interview with somebody in that chair right there. So the reason I wanna do this is because I have a very unique style that I have developed over many years of corporate life of how I interview. I tend to do pretty long interviews and very personable. This will be a long video because I do long interviews, but you need to do long interviews if you wanna hire good people, because you're gonna be hiring people to talk to your clients. You need to do your homework and make sure they're the right person to do that. And the questions or the answers that I want are a little bit unique. And I wanted to do a good job of taking somebody through this or taking you through this. Here we go. We're gonna do a job interview. Get your pencils ready. This is gonna be a good one. I'm Nick Glassett, owner of The Jump Off. Let's get interviewing. Good to meet you, Ben. Have a seat.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. All right, so let's kind of start at the beginning. Actually, we'll start at like the super beginning. Any questions or anything that you have for me?
Maybe just about the hours.
Okay.
How many hours do you typically work?
Cool. So I'll kind of give you a rundown of like what a basic week looks like. All right.
All right.
So your go time is going to be Saturday. And so basically what we do is we deliver everything Saturday morning that's going to go out that day, right? So a typical Saturday starts at 6 a.m. Okay, we get here to the warehouse, then we load the trailers up. So we'll have 2, potentially 3, maybe 4 trucks out back with trailers on them. You'll load up, and we have a whole system of what, how to load, all that good stuff, okay? So from about 6 a.m. to 7, you load up. Then you leave here at 7 and start your first drop off at 7:15. And then usually your route will run till about noon. You're done, okay? You come back here and you're good to go. You can clock out and go home. Now that we're getting into the busier season, you may have pickups on Saturday nights. So if you're on one of those routes, they kind of start at random times, kind of depending on the day. They can start anywhere as early as usually like 4. They're usually like 6-ish. Ends at like 8 p.m., right? Sunday is kind of a repeat of that whole process. Instead of doing drop-offs, most of the stuff you do is pickups, but generally speaking, it's a very similar mix. That day can be a little longer too.
It's actually really not bad. It's like you still have the rest of the day ahead of you.
Correct. So it is kind of like the bad part is that like, yeah, you got to be here by 6, you know what I mean? So you need to be up by, 5:30 or something, but you're done at noon. Monday, there'll be some pickups to go do Monday from your Sunday stuff, but it's usually a much more chill day. 1 truck, 2 guys, no biggie, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's an easy day. Generally speaking, starting Tuesday, you've got guys in the warehouse cleaning, right? So they get here kind of at their leisure. It's not really that big of a deal. It just all needs to get done. So a busy weekend, we'll have 15 units to clean. They come, they blow them up. They get paid for every unit that they clean, $15 for each one that they clean. And so everybody kind of picks and chooses. I'm going to clean 4 this week. I'm going to clean 6 this week, whatever, right? I usually get here about 8:15 in the morning, and then the guys will get here at whatever time they want to get here. So then they'll clean Tuesdays, Wednesdays. Sometimes it makes its way into Thursday, just kind of depends. But then usually Thursday, everything's done. And it's kind of a slow day, right? Friday then is kind of hit and miss. Starts all over again Saturday. Right, so that's kind of how your week runs. So does that fit your life?
As far as I'm aware, it does.
Okay, to kind of finish up the hours thing, right? And so then the way we run it is we've got a whole bunch of guys that work for us, okay? And I make, actually my admin now does it. She'll go in and make the route of like, this truck's gonna go, over to whatever, Hammond, and then up to LaRanger, or this truck's going down to Mandeville, and this one's going up to Covington, whatever, right? So she makes those routes, then she puts it into a spreadsheet on Google Sheets. Everybody that works here has access to that, right? So then when Cassie gets done, I go in and proofread everything and make sure that the details are all right. And then I send a text to the group chat and say, schedule's up. And then everybody goes in, and sometimes like it's a race, but they go in and fill in their own shifts. We still have some routes that are one-man routes when it's like small little units. Once we get to water slide season, they're pretty much all 2-man routes. I'll go in there and put 1-man route or 2-man route next to it. So one of the guys that's a driver will go in and, pick their shifts. And then if you were to get hired, you'd be a helper. So you'd go in there and throw your name next to Isaiah or Trevor or Tyler or whoever's driving. You know what I mean?
Right.
Okay. And so it's kind of can be a little bit of a race to get those shifts. And I've set it up that way on purpose, right? It was, yes, I don't want to have a crew that works with us that's like I'm pulling teeth to get them to go work, right? So if we start to have some people that are not picking shifts up ever, or like I can't get them to work or whatever, I I generally don't have to go like fire them. I just stay doing interviews. You know what I mean? I'll hire somebody that's new that'll come in, that's eager, right? I just need the shifts worked, right? And so it's in my best interest to just let's have a whole bunch of guys that can get in there and get those shifts.
Smart business move.
It works very well. It works very well. Finding good people is harder than, you know what I mean, you would think. Cool. Okay, so tell me about your shoe. You flip shoes or you resell shoes?
Me and my buddy Chance, what we do is we enter in like drawings and stuff for shoes, and we get them for retail, and we turn around and sell them for market, which I actually have a pair at home that I'm selling right now for, I think, $200 more than I bought them for.
Right. What are you selling that, like, are Jordans still the king?
It's mostly Jordans that sell the biggest
okay.
and the most.
Yeah, I actually worked in shoes. I worked as a district manager at Journeys. I worked for Journeys for 16 years. What do you guys sell them?
I actually post them on Snapchat. You can sell them on Go.
Okay, that's cool. So you're doing that. And then, yeah, so then tell me a little bit about you. Like, whatever, dude. Other hobbies, school stuff, your ambitions,
just
whatever.
Finished school.
Yeah, so you're like done as of like yesterday, huh?
Friday was my last day, but I was still like making sure everything was done.
Right.
And I didn't even turn anything in. I wasn't missing anything because I didn't want to have to go back for any exams. I had, I think, only one absence for the entire semester. For that and keeping my grades up, or I wouldn't have to take the exam.
Oh, is that how? Because it worked way different when I was in school. So
yes. So since we got our new principal, that's what he brought that back.
So okay, so you're done. Are you going to college? Are you looking to go into school? Or are you gonna go try and get it?
I'm actually looking to go to a realtor's class just to get my license.
I used to be a realtor.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is it worth it?
If you like that industry, I do not want to paint it in a bad light for you. I couldn't stand it. Number one reason is I don't like rules. Okay, like that's why I own my own businesses. I can't do whatever I want, right? I do have laws I gotta follow, but
you can do mostly like
I do whatever I want. But it's like I'd rather just go learn in the moment, right? Yeah. Versus, try and do all sorts of crazy research and come into the situation prepared. It's like, dude, I'd rather show up and learn as I go, right? That's kind of my style. Okay, you learn all these weird, goofy laws and whatever. Then you come out, you don't know how to do anything. Okay, so you have to then like get with your managing broker and go to these classes that like teach you all this stuff in these meetings. Bro, I don't like meetings.
I get that.
And so then I start getting clients and working on some deals, and it's just like mountains of paperwork. Everything's got to be, it's so rigid. Like that part of the business wasn't for me. I did meet some great people. I have a buddy who's an amazing dude. He's a great real estate agent. Absolutely. I have multiple buddies that are real estate agents, you know what I mean, that are good dudes. There's a lot of slimy, dirty, dishonest, used car salesy type of personalities that those two things wear me out very, very quickly. Bro, real estate was like, whoops, just wasted $3,000 going through the whole thing and get my license. So what do you do for fun? Like, what is your hobbies?
For fun, I just hanging out with friends, just enjoying like the moment.
Cool.
That's what I enjoy, and then going and exploring new places.
That's cool. All right, awesome, dude. Has Tyler told you kind of what we do, like what the job entails?
He said that, I know he was telling me about pay too.
The pay is confusing.
Different things get paid certain.
Don't worry about it. Tips, yes, you get.
And he was telling me that clean the bounce houses and stuff, roll them up and all that, bring them to the places.
Yeah, so I'll give you kind of like the super brief rundown of it, right? So basically what we're doing is we're dropping off bounce houses most often to a birthday party, right, for a child. Okay, so the parents are our clients. The kids are the most important part of what we do though, but it ends up kind of a high pressure situation, like a high pressure job, I guess you could say, because for that family's birthday party, right, and the 20 people that are coming to it, the entire party revolves around the bounce house or the water slide. We're bringing the most important part of the party, right? Now, that being said, like it's kind of funny to say that it's a high pressure situation, right? Because you're like, it's just bounce house and the water slides. It just goes back to kind of however your personality looks at it, or maybe to be more accurate, my personality on it, right? Since I own the business, my view of it kind of trickles down to everybody, but I take that responsibility very seriously. We've literally never canceled a rental ever, but that kind of pressure makes it where you have to be on time, right? So Your first drop off's at 7:15. Nobody wants their thing at 7:15. They just get it because they're so close to here. They're the first one, right? The next one's 8:30. The next one's 9. Then you start getting into the last 3-ish on the trailer that you've got to have there before the party starts, right? So those first ones are important to stay on time before the last one.
Because if you're not on time for the first one, you're not going to be on time for
Correct.
the other ones.
That being said, it's not like some crazy pressure cooker. We have a ton of fun, but you just got to make sure you stay efficient and on task. The other part of this job, it's super easy, even though it's really hard. Okay, so the reason I say that is you come into this having never rolled a water slide before. Okay, it's extraordinarily hard.
Is it?
It's hard. They're very heavy. We have one. It's our biggest one. It's massive, but it's almost 800 pounds.
Whoa.
Yes. Okay, but we have I've been doing this since 2019. So I have a whole bunch of crazy, goofy little techniques. So I have figured out ways to roll inflatables that's not that bad, right? The people that work here, they kind of range, right? The hard part comes in is because you're moving heavy items. You know what I mean?
Yes,
the other part of it that's hard is that there is some detail stuff that goes with it, right? So every single one's got to get anchored down. They all need a blower. They all need a cord, right? There's some little teeny intricacies that kind of go along with, does this one have a hose on it? The pool, right? Some of that stuff's advanced that wouldn't be on your shoulders if you get hired in the beginning, right? But as you get more experience, it's just kind of, you have to know that kind of stuff, right? The reason I say it's easy is because it's freaking easy.
It's just you got to get used to it and get into the flow first.
Once
Once you're in, yes, rolling a 22-foot dual lane slide in and of itself is always a physical, right?
Yes.
There's a physicality to it that is no doubt, right? But to fold it is easy. To roll it takes, I don't even think to roll it takes 5 minutes. You roll it and then stand it up on the dolly. We have motorized dollies. One finger and it pulls across the yard, even if it's muddy, does it, right? There's kind of it's hard, but it's really super easy. The other part about it is in the summer, obviously it's hotter than blazes in Louisiana. But it's kind of the same thing where it's it's miserable, but it's not. You're out in the sun on the biggest stuff we carry, right? It usually takes 45 minutes to pick up. Okay, so you're out in the 45 minutes.
That's really not that bad.
You're drenched in sweat, but then you're right back in the air-conditioned truck, driving back down the road at the next one. So it's you're sweating your guts out and you cool off, and you sweat your guts out and you cool off.
See, that sounds better than being at the body shop I was working at, just because during summer, it's hot no matter where you are.
In the garage?
Even inside.
Right.
Even inside with the fans blowing everywhere, it's still hot. You're constantly sweating.
Yep. And our warehouse is similar to a body shop in the summer where it's clean and slides in the summer. It is hot, but at least it's indoors. It's not in the sun. You know what I mean? But still, even when we did it in the sun, it was whatever, dude. Take your shirt off and get a tan and clean these units. It's not that bad. You know what I mean? I always make the joke, I'm like, dude, we're not roofers. Right?
Yeah.
Roofers are up on a steep pitch for 8 to 10 hours a day in the blazing sun on black shingle. Dude, it's super, this job's super easy. There is some physical stuff to it, but super easy. That's kind of the nutshell version of what you would be getting yourself into if you get hired. Cool. Let's jump into some of your stuff with your prior jobs. All right. So where have you worked?
So my first job was actually Daisy Dukes. I worked there for 2 years.
Yeah, so kind of give me the rundown of what you did there.
I did pretty much anything you can name. I would help cook. I would help do the dishes. I would clean. If a customer needed something, I would help them out. If everyone else was busy, I'll help you. It's all right.
All right, cool. And then what made you leave there? How come you not work there anymore?
Really, it was probably the pay. I was working there for 2 years, constantly at $8 an hour. And I'm I can't really survive off this. The hours and the stress was not worth it because I was working 6, I think, to 4 at one point.
On the weekends?
On the weekends.
So 6 a.m. to 4 p.m.?
Oh, yes, sir.
Oh, that's a long shift.
Yeah, and I felt like everyone pinned more stuff on me than they would do themselves. I wasn't truly happy there. I'll put it that way.
Got it.
And so I ended up going to the body shop where my friend had worked. Me and everyone there, we got along a lot better. And
that's cool.
I had learned a lot. So anything happens to my car, I can pretty much fix it.
That's cool. That's a good perk. So now I'll ask you some work questions. I do want you to do me a favor though and answer them in a little bit of a weird way. I want you to tell me stories. Stories.
All right.
Okay, so if I ask a question, think of a time it actually happened and then tell me that story. Give me details. What the customer wanted, what color the lady's dress was, like what, right? But yeah, just build me a good story that kind of encapsulates like the answer to what I ask. Cool?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So give me a time where you were very proud of how you helped the customer. Maybe you went above and beyond. Maybe just were super proud of how you handled the situation.
Actually, at the body shop, there was this one person that came in. Their car was kind of like a race car almost.
All right.
And their front bumper was all scraped up and broken. Rick had asked me to help him with all of the like taking it apart and putting it on a new bumper. So I did all that, and then when it came time to clean up the car, I did just that, and I did it better than I'd probably cleaned any other car.
All right. When you say clean up the car, like what exactly do you
So
mean?
you have to vacuum out the inside, wipe everything down,
Oh, okay.
and all their loose change and stuff, I'd put it together just in one like little spot for them. All those like wheels and stuff, I would wipe them down. Everything was completely shiny and dry, no water spots.
What prompted you to do that? Like what's the inspiration to do that?
I wanted them to be satisfied with the work that Rick's shop would do to it. I wanted them to like recommend it for other people to get more customers. I wanted
Right, that's awesome.
I wanted to feel good inside, like feel like I actually accomplished something good.
Where do you get that from?
Just this personal drive. It's just like I want.
What do you know? Have you ever thought through it? Like, where does it come from? Like, the reason I'm asking this is because I have the same thing, where it's like when I was 14 or 15, I worked at a Subway. Like, I remember like my heart beating out of my chest the first time I was on the line on a busy Saturday because I was like, I got to get this right, dude. This is people's food. Like, it's got to be right. The same goofy thing I was just talking about being on time for the parties and how we're the most important part of the parties, like all of that, right? I remember that from as a 15-year-old working at a Subway back in forever ago, eons ago. And for a long time, I said that job taught that to me because of the food thing, which it kind of helped me figure it out. But like, it's in my DNA from somewhere else, right? So that's kind of what I'm asking. Like, do you have any idea like where the heck that comes from in you?
I'd probably have to say it's just how like my parents had raised me. They always wanted me to do everything to the best of my ability. Everyone wanted me to do better than other people, which I've always tried to do, to never back down.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, you gotta keep going. You can't just give up halfway through something. You gotta follow through and just give it your all.
Couldn't agree more. So, okay, cool. So give me a good story of the opposite. This is the hard one, where you goofed something up. Okay, you didn't do as good as you thought. You were disappointed in yourself, whatever. But then you can redeem yourself, right? And you can then tell the story of how you fixed it.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I've made mistakes playing.
Of course, and that's kind of the thing is like everybody has, you know what I mean? So I know it's weird to explain that in a job interview. You're like, I'm supposed to come tell good stories, right? But I want to hear, you know what I mean, a time you goofed it up and then how you fixed it. Like, take me through the process.
I've like broken car parts. Like I've had to. I've told my boss, and I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't even mean to. Like it just happened. It's like.
What's the worst one? The biggest one, or the most expensive, whatever the worst one is.
Probably whenever I had went to turn off someone's headlights, like with the knob on the inside, and the knob actually had broke, and just like you couldn't turn off the headlights at all. So a replacement part for that, like the whole thing itself, was $150.
It's like an old car or something?
No, it's new.
Oh, okay.
I just turned it to turn off the lights, and it ended up breaking. The person that owned the car came, like he drove by and said the lights were on, so I was like, oh no. The next day, Rick had said something. I was like, that was probably me. I tried turning them off. I didn't know I broke them, and so I was like, what does it cost? You just take it out of my paycheck. He was like, don't worry about it. I felt so bad.
See, but that's right. But like, that's what I mean. Like, that's a good story. Like, obviously, it's never great to break somebody's car, especially when you work there, right? And you're going to cost the shop extra money to fix what you broke. Like, that's not great, right? But how you handled it, that's the good part of the story, right? What about your craziest day? Like your most, let me word it like this. Took the most effort or energy, took the most energy out of you. Like, what day was that? What happened? Why was it so?
When I was actually working at Daisy Dukes, they used to host like shows there. Like that day I had worked 12 hours. After cleaning up and everything, the drag show started at 2 and didn't until 6. So I had worked the restaurant because that day we also had a car show up front. So you had to clean the back, you had to clean the front,
Right, so then you guys are busy because everybody's at the car show, so they're coming in for
Yes, sir.
food.
'Cause
Okay.
we actually had hosted the car show too.
Oh.
So you had people coming in.
So the same day, car show and drag show, same day.
Hectic, but it did bring in a lot of customers and money.
Sure.
I think the waitresses made like $400 each that day, and there were like 4 of them.
Dang. Did they share tips with you or no?
I did get some of the tips. It wasn't bad, but like wasn't the best.
Sure. All right, so then what about that day was kind of, you know,
just having to wait.
I don't want to say draining, but
having to wait on every single person that walked in and then take their orders, and then having to clean the cups and all that before someone else would come in, and then having to go in the back, wash dishes, clean up back there, and then I'd have to repeat every hour.
Right.
So it was a bunch of running back and forth when I felt like other people probably could have helped a little bit more than what they were doing.
Yeah, okay, so super hectic day, right? So what gets you through it?
My motivation was just, I can get through it, and at the end of the day, I did a good job, because I'm only gonna not enjoy it just in that moment. Like at the end of the day, it's not really gonna matter, because I will have already done it, and it's like there's nothing I can do to change that.
Right.
You do your best then, and that's really all you can do.
That's cool. That's a good mentality, because people dwell so much. I've seen it a million times, right? I managed a lot of people back in my corporate life, when I worked at Journeys and stuff. And these people would just be miserable, dude, working, a 4-6 hour shift or whatever. And you're like, it's not prison. Like it ends. So what other questions do you have for me? Like anything else you want to talk about? Anything other, whatever, curiosities on your mind?
I don't want to bring up pay, but like, what is pay?
Stick with me on this, because, okay, so helpers will start at $12 an hour.
All right. Yes, sir.
Okay, so helper is the guy that rides shotgun in the truck, and then let's just say you're running a route with Tyler, right? So he's driving and you're right. So he'll drive, and then you will ride shotgun. When you get to the house, he'll get out of the truck and go knock on the door, talk to the client, figure out where they want to put the slide. A lot of times it's their first time ever renting one. They have no idea what they're doing. While that's going on, you'll unload the trailer, start getting the anchors together, the cords, the blower, the tarps, all that kind of stuff together. If it's a smaller unit, you can probably meet Tyler back there by the time he's done talking to the person, right? A giant water slide, different story. It takes 2 people to get it back on the dolly, but you're just kind of starting to do all the work. Then once you guys get it all figured out, then you put the tarp down, put the unit down, blow it up, get it straight, anchor it down. That's the helper. Then if you clean, it's $15 every unit you clean. If there's one that's mega trashed, yes, of course I'd pay more if it takes longer, right? You got to do a good job. Those are the 2 pays that will be right off the bat, okay? Now, down the line is where it actually kind of can get confusing. If you become a driver of the truck, you make $18 an hour, or to put that in, Tyler will be making $18 an hour while you're making $12. Now, if you're trained to be a driver and you're the helper, that's where it gets confusing, okay? So $18 an hour plus $12 an hour is $30 an hour. If it's 2 drivers in a truck, I still pay $30 an hour, right? The idea is the guy driving the truck gets 16, so it's a little bit less, $2 less. The guy that's riding gets 14, it's $2 more. Because you run a route with 2 drivers, they both know what to do. Like, so it's super freaking smooth and easy, right? So that's kind of the pay.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. What other questions do you have? So I have a rule you have to ask 2. And it could be about anything. I don't care. Literally anything.
Oh, wait.
See, this is why I make this, because I know you have this question and you're embarrassed to ask it, but I make you ask it.
It's not even really that. I'm trying to think of a good one.
Okay. Yeah, I started doing that a long time ago, and
it's actually really
the questions that I get most often are the questions that people want to ask, but they kind of feel apprehensive to do it, and then they're put on the spot, and their brain can't think of another one, so they're just like, they blurt out the one that's on their mind, you know what I mean?
How is the work environment?
Okay, so work environment is, like, it's not, like, relaxed in the sense of, like, we just goof off and you can do anything, right? As I kind of said in the beginning, it's very... I take this very seriously, right?
Yes, sir. That
That being said, we try to have as much fun as possible, right? So the guys all end up buddies. Everybody that works here is a little older than you, but right, similar ages, right? So a lot of that influences the culture, right? I mean, I'm the oldest guy that works here by a mile. But yeah, so The stuff that is important, we take very seriously, and then we try to make sure and have fun too. Like literally one of the core values of the company is if you're not having fun, make it fun. Like, cause it's just like, I'm not the type of leader that has like these crazy regimented, you know what a micromanager is? You ever heard that term?
I have.
Okay. I'm the opposite of a micromanager. So where I do enjoy teaching a lot. Okay. I love to teach, mentor, show people like little tips or bro, don't do it like that. Do it like this. Okay. I do have some things where I'm like, this is how we do it. Do it like this every time. Not a ton though. Generally speaking, the policy is do it like this and do it every time unless you think you have a better way. If you think you have a better way, you're going to need to test it a little bit. And then you please show me as soon as it comes. We have some things that we do that are like standard operating procedure that are not my idea. Somebody else came up with them. How we spin our chords was Tyler. Saw it on TikTok. He said, we should do our chords like this. I'm like, Tyler, that guy looks like he's some ninja or something. We're not winding our chords like that. And then one day I'm like, let's see if we can wind our chords like that. And it was the greatest thing ever. And we do it now. That's how we do it. A lot of the other bounce house industry does it now because I had a video go viral and has 6 million views on TikTok and 1 million views on Instagram of me rolling up the extension cords the way that Tyler suggested that we do it. Pretty wild, right? We need this goal hit, okay? This is how I teach you to get there. I'm okay though if you go this way or if you go this way, as long as this is achieved. After a while though, if you keep taking this way, I'm like, bro, it's taking too long and I pay you hourly. Just do it my way. And you'll be like, okay. But because of that, the environment becomes very cool, collaborative. Everybody kind of contributes. If you're doing a bad job, sometimes I will hear about it, but other times the guys just freaking solve it because right? You're working the truck with somebody else. They're the one that's going to freaking get on your ass because you're slow or lazy or whatever, right? Only when it gets extreme generally does it make its way to me. It ends up we're a pretty cohesive team.
That's good.
Yep. Cool. Basically what I'm doing is, when did I text you the first time?
Probably a month ago.
So, okay, from when I first text you, I for sure have hired new people. So we are pretty well staffed. If you don't hear from me, what's today? Tuesday. So if you don't hear from me by next Tuesday, just go a week, right? Please text me. Okay. I'm a very busy guy. I didn't ghost you. I didn't forget about you. Just text me next Tuesday, right? The other reason I'm asking that is because, like I said, I've for sure hired one guy, and then there's 2 other ones that like they've worked a little bit. I like to have that big stable of help just in case. We get very busy in May. We have graduation parties and we have school events. Elementary schools have their field days, but it starts to get pretty crazy in May. And then the other thing too, like I said, I like to just be always doing interviews. That way if something does happen, right? I mean, I've got hit with somebody that quit the day of their shift before. It's like the one time it's ever happened. Like people are always like, what's your turnover rate? I'm like, low, dude, low. Like we have one guy that got a real job of something he wanted to do. But other than that, like those are the only 2 people that have left. Like that's it. Like everybody else has worked here forever. You know what I mean? I do definitely take pride in that. But so I'm telling you all of that. Just keep in touch with me. Yes, something could open at any time. I could make the decision we need to hire more people. I just don't know.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Yes, sir.
Awesome, dude. All right, man. Well, if you don't have anything else, I think we're good. Cool. Well, it's good to meet you, man.
It was good meeting you too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take care.
Yep. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. So let's break down that interview just a little bit. So you may notice a couple things right off the bat. Number 1, the atmosphere or the relationship between myself and the interviewee, very loose. All right. I do that on purpose for a couple reasons. Number 1, that's just how I interact, right? This is the real me. That's just how I talk to people. It's just how I interact. Okay. Number 2, over the years of doing interviews, right? I used to try to be like a hard ass and like stick it to it. It's just not who I am. But the more I was myself, the more crazy answers I get. Or I guess you could say the more realistic or accurate answers that you get. People really start to feel safe opening up to you, and they do so, which is good because it's a job interview. You need to know if this person is going to be good working for you or not. All right. Next thing you probably notice, I kind of jump all over the place. That is just how I am. That's just how my brain operates. That's just how I talk. I'm not very by the book, so to speak. Things pop in my brain. We jump forwards. We jump backwards. We do all sorts of stuff. I'm making sure in my head, I have like a mental checklist of everything I need to cover. okay? And I'm going through that list while he's talking, and then I forget something. We may jump back, we may jump forward, all right? You saw that happen quite a few times in that interview. Next thing you're gonna notice, never touched this pencil one time and never touched this notebook a single time. Why? Because the interview is not on this paper. The interview is sitting in that chair. It's a human interaction, right? Now, I always keep the pencil and paper handy just in case they drop a great piece of knowledge that I want to write down or some great idea. But generally speaking, that's rare. The paper stays over here and I stay engaged with the interview the whole entire time, not touching any notes, not doing anything, right? The next thing you're going to notice is kind of related to that. I don't look at anything. I'm not reading anything. I have all this stuff in my brain. I have done so many interviews that would make your head spin. I have this entire thing in my head memorized, so to speak. I know what I need to hit and I know what questions I need to ask. That will not be the case from Jump. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a resource for you to kind of take you through some of the key things you're going to want to hit in the interview. I'm a different person than you. I'm a bit different leader. I'm a different business owner. I'm not going to have a resource that's going to be a playbook, play-by-play for you to read off of a script. That's not what it's going to be. You're going to need to do this before the interview, right? It'll take you through the things to help you figure out what you need to ask and what's important to you. Then you can use that to build your playbook. Next thing that's a little bit interesting, when I started asking like the real interview questions, right? We go through and I make him be very thorough in his answers. The best way to do this is my favorite interview trick of all time, which is called Tell Me a Story. Okay, so you heard me say, I'm gonna now ask you these questions. I want you to answer them in a unique way. I even ask, tell me the story. Then I give them exactly how I want them to format the story. Specifics, exactly what you did, when you did it. What color was the customer's dress is what I told him, right? Showing them I want details so we don't have to go back and get these freaking details from him, right? Now, his stories were detailed enough that it was adequate for me. If they start telling stories, they're like, oh, I always go above and beyond. I always take care of the customer. I am headstrong. I make them pick one time it happened. I make them pick one story, tell one story. If they cannot, it does get a little bit awkward and I will move on. But you like just straight flunked that question. Straight up, if you can't tell a story, you flunked that question. You're not doing so hot in the interview. Next thing you'll notice, kind of jumping backwards, in the small talk portion, I really try to get them to open up. I want to know who they are. Before I get to all the professional stuff, I try to hit the personal stuff. And that's for two reasons. One, I'm curious, but number two, it helps set the tone of the kind of leader that I am. Like I care about my people and I communicate that in the interview from Jump, right? That's what I'm communicating there. Next thing you're gonna notice is at the end, I make them ask two questions. I kind of gave him a get out of jail free card and I let him take his first pay related question as number one. Still made him ask question number two, right? The reason I do that is just the way you heard me explain it to him. I want to have them feel comfortable asking me what's on their mind. And I want to make sure I answer their real questions, which they're never going to ask you 99% of the time. They're not going to ask you because they're too apprehensive. They're too shy. They're too uncomfortable asking that question. When you put them on the spot like that, they can't think of anything else. They ask you that question, all right? It's one of the best hacks I've had to really make a good relationship with the person in the moment, because no matter what they ask, I answer honestly and thoughtfully. Sometimes the entire best part of the interview comes in those. So it's a cool another little life hack. He did not do this, but they'll ask a question that you can then tell a story that is around the values that you have, like your morals, your core values, and really start to build the understanding of what's most important to you. And it will come at the very end in those questions because it forces them to ask a good question, basically. Okay, and the last thing I kind of want to point out here, you'll notice all of my interviews go similar to that. All of the interviews that I do are good. Every single interview I do almost is good, but that's because of me, not him. So why I say that is my style lends to a very open conversation, and that open conversation leads to them thinking the interview went super good. It did or it didn't, and I'm the one that gets to decide that, all right? So now with him, yes, I thought that interview went very good. He naturally comes coded, or it's in his DNA to have the things that I also have in my DNA, or the culture of the Jump Off has in its DNA, right? We want to go above and beyond. We work very hard. We help other people out. He had a ton of the core values in his stories, which is awesome. That was in fact a pretty damn good interview, all right? Even when they're not very good interviews, they still feel like super good interviews because of me. The reason I'm saying all this is because you cannot get yourself fooled here. You're gonna start getting better at interviews and start having good interviews. That doesn't mean you hire everybody you have a good interview with. I ran the interview. Of course the conversation was good. I'm good at having conversations. You have to look within the answers and see if that person fits the company and the culture. He absolutely does. I'm pretty full of hired. I don't think I got to hire any more people, okay? However, that sucks because that was such a good applicant that I don't have room for. What do I do? You can either pass or bring him on where he doesn't fit. Both are good answers because having more people that don't fit, good problem. Being able to pass on super talented, great kids, also good problem, right? The other thing is that was a good interview for both of us, right? He probably thinks it went good and I think it went good. So that way, if something does happen, he's a text message away. Most people work on the weekdays and we're a weekend business. So that gives me a little bit of a bench. Just in case something goes wrong, we can tag him in. It's a good thing to have a little bit of a bench, right? Don't hire everybody that's good when you're fully staffed, so that way you have some backups. Anyways, I hope that was as valuable as I tried to make it. I'm sure it was a little bit awkward there while he was talking. You're just looking at my face, nodding and smiling. But anyways, I just wanted to put that out there so that you guys could kind of get a good, for instance, of how I interview. It's a very unique version of a job interview that I do. So anyways, please hit the subscribe button. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Give me your feedback on Instagram. Please DM me at Nico Glass. Just DM me. And any questions, any other things that you have on your mind, please. I answer every DM I ever get. So with that being said, hope you're a better interviewer now. I'm Nick Glassett. I'm signing off. Peace out.